The first time I ever slept through the night was the night I quit security work forever. I didn't mean to sleep. I simply forgot to stay awake. That was the problem with night shift jobs. The world was quiet, the mind was loud, and the body was always hungry for the one thing it never got: rest. But I had spent years working nights because my body had always been built for them. While other people's lives ran on sunlight, mine ran on streetlights and vending machine hums. My name is Jake Harlan. I am 32 years old, and I have not had a full night's sleep since I was 14. That was the year my mother died in a hospital exactly like the one I would soon guard. She had been battling cancer for 18 months, and the final weeks blurred into a nightmare of beeping machines, sterile corridors, and whispered apologies from doctors who had run out of hope. I sat beside her bed every night, watching the monitors, listening to her shallow breathing, until the night the machines went silent and the lights flickered once before going dark. The nurses told me it was peaceful. I knew better. I had seen her eyes open at the end, wide with something that wasn't fear, but recognition, as if she saw someone waiting for her in the dark. After that, sleep became my enemy. I would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying her final moments, hearing phantom beeps and footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment. Days were exhausting blurs of part-time jobs and mountain debt. Rent in the city was merciless, and after losing my warehouse position 6 months earlier, I was borrowing from friends who had started avoiding my calls. So when my supervisor, a grizzled man named Mr. Lang, who never smiled, offered me the hospital job, I didn't hesitate. 3 nights, he said, voice flat across the phone. Halloway Memorial, triple pay, you'll be alone. Triple pay meant rent caught up, groceries without ramen, and maybe enough to breathe for a few months. I asked why the premium. He paused too long. Old building, few staff, no one wants nights. Follow instructions exactly. That should have been my warning. Instead, I said yes. I drove out early on Thursday, the city shrinking behind me, until only fields and skeletal trees remained. Halloway Memorial sat on the edge like a forgotten tombstone, 3 stories of weathered stone and narrow windows that reflected the dying sunset in blood-red glints. Ivy clung to the walls like veins, and the wind whispered through the leaves with voices that sounded almost human. I parked in the empty lot and stepped into air that smelled of damp earth and distant rain. The lobby was dimly lit, the kind of place where time felt suspended. A receptionist in her late 60s sat behind the counter, her silver hair pulled into a tight bun, her smile polite, but her eyes sharp as scalpels. She didn't ask for ID or paperwork. She simply slid a folded sheet of paper across the counter. Read this carefully, Jake. Memorize every word. Your life depends on it. The paper was plain, typed in neat font, photocopied many times. 7 rules. I read them once, then again, my stomach tightening with each line. Rule 1. Your shift begins at 10 p.m. Be inside the security room by that time. From 10:15 p.m. until 11 p.m., patrol the building. If you encounter anyone, ask them to leave politely. Rule 2. Between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., a woman may appear at the front door asking for her husband. Ignore her. Do not acknowledge her. Rule 3. Keep the ICU lights on at all times. If they turn off, go there immediately and switch them back on. If you hear screaming while the lights are off, run to the nearest bathroom and stay there until the screaming stops. Then return and turn the lights back on. Rule 4. If a little girl with a teddy bear appears in the cafeteria, sit next to her and do not speak. If she looks at you, return to the security room. If she speaks to you, answer until she leaves. Rule 5. Around 1 a.m., check the general ward. If any patient is sitting on their bed, ask if they're okay and do what they ask. If they speak beyond that, ignore them. Rule 6. If it rains, open the front doors and let people inside for shelter. Make sure everyone leaves. If someone goes missing, you'll see them on the cameras. Do not look at them. Rule 7. If the cameras go off at any point, hide. Pray they don't find you. I looked up at the receptionist. These are real? She smiled gently, but her eyes remained cold. They are the rules. Follow them and you'll see morning. The previous guards didn't always. She handed me a cup of black coffee. It tasted bitter and metallic, like it had been brewed from beans soaked in old blood. Perfect for keeping me alert. At 9:45, the outgoing guard arrived, a tall, broad man with hollow cheeks and eyes that darted constantly. He didn't introduce himself. He led me to the security room without a word, a cramped space with flickering monitors showing grainy feeds of empty halls, the ICU, the cafeteria, the wards. He pointed to the keys and flashlight. Cameras lie sometimes. Don't trust them. Follow the rules exactly. If you break even one, he trailed off, shaking his head. You won't be here tomorrow. He left. The clock hit 10. The front doors locked with a heavy click that echoed through the building like a coffin lid closing. I began my patrol at 10:15, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The halls stretched longer than they should have, floors creaking under my boots, air growing colder with each step. 3rd floor, empty patient rooms, beds stripped bare, curtains swaying without breeze. 2nd floor, same silence, but now I heard a faint drip from somewhere unseen, like water leaking from old pipes, or something worse. By 11 o'clock, I reached the 1st floor. The ICU doors loomed ahead, lights inside blazing bright. I checked my watch. 11:02. The lights flickered once, twice, then died. My heart slammed against my ribs. Rule 3. I sprinted down the hall, boots pounding, breath ragged. The corridor seemed to elongate, walls closing in, shadows writhing at the edges of my vision. I reached the doors, locked. Keys jangled uselessly in my trembling hands. Then the screaming began. It wasn't a human scream. It was the sound of pure agony torn from a throat that had screamed for decades, echoing not from the room, but from inside the walls themselves, vibrating through my bones, making my teeth ache. I pressed my ear to the metal door and heard layered voices. My mother's among them? No, impossible. Stress, just stress. The rule was clear. Run to the nearest bathroom if screaming starts. I ran, flashlight beam bouncing wildly. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, followed from behind, though I saw nothing when I glanced back. I burst into the men's bathroom, slammed a stall door, locked it, and crouched on the toilet seat, knees to chest, flashlight off to hide the beam. The screaming intensified, closer now, accompanied by wet dragging sounds like bodies being pulled across tile. The bathroom door creaked open. Footsteps entered, leather shoes on linoleum, no echo. A shadow fell across the gap under my stall. A man in a white coat, tall and thin, face pale as bleached bone, eyes sunk in black pits. In his hand glinted a scalpel, blade catching faint moonlight from the high window. "Jake," he whispered, voice like dry leaves scraping stone. "I need your help. Your mother waited so long. Come out." He knew my name. My mother. How? I bit my lip until it bled, tasting copper. The scalpel tapped the door once, twice. "I'm only trying to help," he said, amused now. "See you soon, Jake." He left. Screaming stopped abruptly. Silence crashed back, heavier than before. I waited 20 minutes,
legs cramping, before emerging. ICU lights were on again. I returned to the security room, monitors showing nothing but empty halls, but I felt watched. Midnight passed. I forced myself to patrol again, coffee churning in my gut. Rule 4 waited in the cafeteria. At 12:45, the monitor showed her, a small girl, maybe 6, blonde hair tangled, clutching a teddy bear, missing one button eye. She sat motionless at a table, staring directly into the camera. I approached slowly, heart hammering. She was real, cold air radiating from a small form, the bear's fur matted with something dark. I sat beside her without speaking, as instructed. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Then she giggled.
"You forgot the rules," she said, voice high but ancient, layered with echoes. "I didn't," I lied, voice cracking. She tilted her head, empty eyes locking on mine. "Want to play hide and seek? I'll count to 60. Then we'll find you." She began counting in a sing-song whisper. 1, 2, 3. Panic surged. Rule said, "Return if she looks at you." I stood and ran, her counting chasing me down the hall. 20, 21. Back in the security room, I locked the door. Cameras flickered, then died completely. Rule 7. The building plunged into deeper darkness. Intercom crackled. "Hide." I grabbed the flashlight and keys, bolting upstairs. Footsteps multiplied behind me, slow surgeon shoes, child's bare feet, dragging sounds from the ICU. On the second floor, general ward, a patient sat upright in bed, eyes milky white. "Help me," he rasped. Rule 5. I asked if okay. He pointed to a drawer. Inside, an old photo of my mother, smiling in the hospital bed. "She's waiting," he whispered. I ignored further words and fled, but now rain hammered the windows. Rule 6. Front doors. Unlocked them. Figures shuffled in from the storm, pale, dripping people in hospital gowns, eyes vacant. I herded them out as rain eased, but one went missing. On a surviving monitor feed, the woman from Rule 2 stood in the hall, whispering my mother's name. The entities converged. Surgeon's voice echoed, "Mistakes require correction." Girl's counting reached 59. Cold hands brushed my ankles in the dark. I found the janitor closet on the 3rd floor, crammed inside behind mops and buckets, door shut, breath held. They searched. Surgeon's scalpel scraped walls. Girls giggle from the vents above. "Found you," she whispered through the keyhole. A hand, ice cold, bony, slid under the door, fingers wrapping my ankle. I kicked free, screaming silently. Hours blurred. 5:45 a.m. Lights flickered back. Cameras revived. Intercom. Shift over. I staggered to the lobby. The receptionist smiled. "You followed the rules." But as I drove home, dawn breaking, I realized the truth in the photo, the voices, the surgeon's familiarity. My mother hadn't died peacefully. She had been taken by something in these halls, the same thing now bound to me. That night, for the first time, I slept through until morning, because I was no longer alive to dream. The little girl still counts in my ears when the lights go out, and the rules, they weren't for the living, they were for the ones who stay behind.